Okay.
All right. Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Open Space Farmland Preservation Subcommittee for Tuesday, February 27th, 6 p.m., Town Council Chambers. Is there any public comment? Seeing none, we have a discussion update on Rock Hill Community Farm. Remediation of the site work. Town Manager?
Yeah, just a quick update. You have in your package an update from Steve Sopelak regarding the remediation and the items that remain. We're running behind in that project due to additional findings of buried tanks and additional contamination that we ran into pertaining to lead. So that has caused some delays in addition to the weather, because it gets, as you know, it gets very muddy at that site. Quickly to the barn, I was successful in getting an extension of the deadline from the state for the grant. The steep grant for $128,000 was extended to June 30 of 2024. Will not take that long. As soon as the site gets stabilized enough, the contractor for the barn will be able to get in to that site for the foundation, probably next week, end of next week. And as an additional twist to the update, I have contracted with Mr. Robert Alvarado, I believe is his last name. He will be managing that project from here on out with Steve and Dave Palmberg, monitoring the site work as well as the construction of the barn, and also during the what I'm terming right now phase 2 of this project, which is additional clearing, additional landscaping, some tree cutting. Also starting to look at the community garden area. The site, once the site remediation work is finalized, the site will require additional landscaping, trimming, tree cutting, walkways. So that would be phase 2, and hopefully, if we do run into some additional funding, looking at plumbing as well as electricity. I'm thinking maybe we could utilize some solar panels to power that barn. It won't take much.
Thank you. Thanks for getting that extension on the grant.
Yeah.
That's very helpful. Councilman Savini, any questions?
When you say plumbing and electrical, what do we already, I apologize for not knowing, but what do we already have planned for it?
Right now, for the barn, the plumbing is roughed in, period. That's all we have, in an area for a bathroom.
And then electrical, is electrical even on site, or does it have to be brought?
It'd have to be brought in from where the house, from,
So there was some at the
There
house,
was
so we
electrical.
could bring it from,
Yeah.
it's a short run.
yeah, very short.
Were there any other plans for the barn? And I don't know if I remember hearing something about potentially adding a window or a door, but that might further bring us over budget or whatever.
Yeah, I think once the barn is up, maybe in what I call phase 2, you can always cut another window in later on, under a different contract, or even our town crew can do that.
Right. You mentioned additional funding. Have we recognized some?
No.
No. And do we have leads on where to potentially go for it, or other than the town?
Now, the additional funding I mean by grants, not that.
Okay.
Funding maybe in this coming budget to finish up, but additional funding will be more significant funding for additional site clearing, additional work for the community gardens, additional, walkways.
one more ask for forgiveness, not being familiar with the plans. What's the parking there? Is there parking?
Yeah, this gravel parking lot.
Yeah. Obviously, it would meet town code because we wouldn't have,
No, it's a farm, it's a gravel parking lot. The only code we need to meet is the handicapped accessibility. And we
Right.
do have we'll have a paved handicap space
Okay.
with a concrete sidewalk leading into the barn.
barn. Okay.
The rest of it is just, a cutout, graded, and it will be, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, maybe 10 spaces head-on, and you can probably squeeze more cars in as they come in.
And then in terms of what's already been done to the site, obviously, we found some other tanks and whatnot that have obviously delayed us, but I did drive by yesterday just to get familiarized myself with it. I did notice that on the right side of the entrance, or call it the roadway to where the barn's gonna sit, they did some excavating where they brought some dirt, over probably 5 or 6 trees where it's almost like 4 or 5 feet up on the trees. A little nervous about what that could mean to those existing trees.
Yeah, what happened there, they over-excavated,
Yeah.
and they cut deeper than they were supposed to, so the road is deeper than what it was.
Oh,
So the soil, topsoil, I believe, Bob, is maybe 12 inches of topsoil around the trees.
it's
Not-
only that amount?
Yeah.
Okay, I couldn't tell, but, I couldn't get out to your muddy piece, as you mentioned.
You want me to speak?
Yeah,
on
sure.
that? Yeah, just for the record, Bob Alvarado, 80 New Hampshire Drive, New Britain, Connecticut, 06052. So they were chasing topsoil out there, and so the roadway was a lot lower than it was designed for. They had to bring in a lot of material. There is a lot of, like you stated, there is a lot of soil around some trees. A lot of those trees going to have to, unfortunately, come down. So we're looking at clearing quite a few of those trees. There's trees that need to come down on the north side of the parking lot, and also on the south side of the parking lot, where the foot of topsoil was placed to cover the arsenic. So that's where we are at. As Ray stated, the contractor is about 80 to 85% completed, so that'll be done next week. They told us by March 8th they should be done, and once they're done, we can get the contractor for the barn soon after.
Is the barn going to be on gravel, or is it going to be a cement pad?
So it's going to be concrete.
Concrete?
It's
Okay.
going to have a foundation. It's going to have a 4-inch concrete pad.
Is in the current people doing the work on the excavations, putting that concrete?
No, they're prepping up the pad, and then there's another contract for the barn. So the barn includes, the construction of the barn includes also the foundation and the slab.
I think that may be all I have for now.
Okay. Councilor Manuel.
Just a quick question. Ray, the grant, was that the construction grant? Are there 2 grants? One for,
There are 2 grants. First one is for the remediation and site work, and that was an $837,000 grant. Second grant is a STEEP grant, Small Towns Economic Assistance Program grant, and that's for the barn. That was $128,000 with a $12,000 match from the town.
okay, and that was extended, that one?
That one was extended because we could not build the barn before we remediate and do the site work.
Okay, thanks.
Good. Ms. Gilbert, any questions?
I have a couple of questions. I'm seeing on the site plan, can somebody educate me on what a water bar is?
It's not what you think.
So you're looking at so anytime you have a steep grade or steep slope, we are trying to cut down the velocity of the runoff that comes down towards or through that roadway. So we put in what they call, water bar is a small diversion. So it's something that has a dip in it that kicks the water onto the side. So there is a water bar kicking in the water onto a stone ditch to safely take that runoff down the path that it's supposed to follow.
Don't go too far. I have another question for you. What is a rain garden?
So rain gardens, there's different types of rain garden, and what rain gardens are designed to do is to basically cleanse the water, any runoff from the side. Typically, they're constructed of organic material, 1 foot to 1.5 foot, sometimes 2 feet of organic material that is placed at the low point, so the water can build up and be absorbed to the organics. Normally, they're also landscaped, so.
So is it almost like a stream, but you're kind of
No,
like
it's
putting?
almost like, I would say it's almost like a mini pond, if you will, with no outlet,
Okay,
with no outlet. So it's, there's a series of, if you want to call it a puddle, if you've seen a puddle, but a deep puddle, that would, take the runoff and cleanse that runoff, infiltrate some of it. Because some sites are suitable for rain gardens, some sites are not, depending on the soils. The soils out there at the farm are kind of tough soils. Weathersfield loams are soils that are very difficult to deal with. So any rain garden will have to be a design rain garden. It will have to properly be done in order to be effective.
well, not only that, yes, that's why I'm also wondering, under the site plan, it says, number 3, we have landscape plans and details, and I'm wondering where that information can be found.
I didn't see it. I started yesterday looking at the
Okay.
contract and the plans.
Yeah, those plans are in the engineering department.
So,
Okay.
but
Just-
we have copies of designs of many rain gardens, so we can give you a copy of a rain garden or whatever they provided, so you have an idea as to what is it that you're going to be looking at.
I'm just concerned because I know, like, the growing of a lot of different plant material, we have to be careful with what their feet are in, because you're going to start having all kinds of root problems, rhizoctonia, pythium,
Yeah.
fusarium.
Yeah.
So you've got to,
Yeah, you almost have to have a landscape architect
right,
pick the right plans that can work on site.
okay.
And again, it varies from site to site.
So we do have plans for maybe some soil removal or tree removal, because I
Yeah, we have,
strongly thinking that those trees that are submerged with some topsoil are definitely going to suffocate.
yeah, we have Planning and Zoning Commission plans. We have engineered plans that were prepared by Zuvik Engineering.
Okay,
That went through the land use boards. Those trees were planned to come down anyway. I mean, there are a lot of trees that need to come down.
right, okay. I think that's all my
Okay.
questions.
Mr. Duff?
Thank you. So we had mentioned at the beginning that we had been running a little behind schedule due to the findings. Is that, does that impact the rest of the phase-in of or closeout of either the contract with the people doing the work or the grant?
It affected the steep grant with the barn. That was an issue, because the deadline was March 4th in order for us to have the barn completed and all the requisitions submitted to the state. And obviously, that was not going to happen. The remediation portion of it seems to be going well, except for the issues that were cited in the letter from Red Construction. I'm told that typically, environmental remediation projects, once, as you all know, or Fran and Chris, Zuvik has been on that site since, I think, 2021, doing the testing before we took all the vehicles out. They've been testing further and further. We had to do testing before we submitted the application to DECD. Once we received approval for the grant, we had to come back and do additional testing, remedial action plan. once the remedial action plan was approved and site work started, they found up to 4 more buried tanks with material in that had to be tested and remediated. Then they found after we took the house down, there was additional lead contamination in the soil that we had to cover and remove, or not cover, but we had to remove the lead and then bring back fill to replace that fill that we took away. All that takes time. It takes additional funding, additional monies. So we're pushing up against the budget right now for the site work.
And we mentioned a couple times material that was brought in for the site work. Because this is a public place, did that fill or material have to, it met a certain standard?
Oh, yeah, everything has to be residential standards because it is going to be an educational facility eventually.
And it sounds like, or does the completion of the barn close out what we were calling phase 1, and then phase 2 is the extra things beyond that?
Yeah. Yeah, well, completion of the barn meaning the structure.
Construction of the barn.
Yeah.
So that will close out phase 1.
Yeah, along with the access driveway, most of the access driveway. And during this phase 2 time, we'll start planning around where the first part of the community gardens will be. That's a whole nother process of actually developing a plan for the gardens and a maintenance plan, a management plan. That needs to be taken care of, and we can start doing that,
Is that this committee, or who is we in this?
It would be, as you know, we did meet with the garden club when we did have a lot of materials submitted regarding how to establish and then manage a community garden. We did have somebody come in and also speak to the committee at one point about that. We can bring them back because, in order to do it right, it really needs to be a managed process. Fees and, rules and what to plant, what not to plant, things that you shouldn't do.
And then finally, when do we think that the public will be able to access this portion of the site? Is it after phase 1, or do we need some of these phase 2 activities to happen before we can say, okay, people, you can come down and safely check it out?
I'm thinking, so if this gets completed, the barn probably in June, things dry out. We still have to take down some trees. We may be able to manage some, minimal public access, maybe more organized public access, but we can't have people walking around yet until we stabilize what needs to be stabilized as far as soil and slopes and erosion and sedimentation controls, make sure that they're still working and or removed if need be. So right now, I'm not sure, when that would happen.
Right. Yeah, just once we have the barn done, I think people are gonna, and it looks, nice and that clearing's done, people are gonna naturally want to check it out, so we should make sure if we need to control access.
Yeah, we can probably put some blockades up where people shouldn't go. Make sure it's tried out.
Fran, I got one more question. Yep. Along those lines, Ray, I'm looking on the schematic of the land. How far is it, do you know offhand, how far is it from the public access with the parking area and the barn and everything to the closest farmer lot? Because I'm just thinking of the issues that we had at the Meadows, 8 years ago with people going down the driveway and going near plants and everything.
We have a gate.
There is a gate
Is there
going
now.
to be a fence and gate and everything?
There's a gate there now that restricts access. There's a gate. I think most of the access is up on Rhodes Landing now, right? Coming in off of Rhodes.
But I mean, if somebody is just like a family walking near the barn,
Well, they have to cross
they
the
want to
stream.
they want to walk to one of the fields.
They're not going to be walking to the fields.
Okay.
We have, the priority for this project is make sure the farmers can farm without interference. That's why, we hired UConn in 2022, December 22, to look at the overall property and to look at trails. You know, I think Fran went on a hike with Yukon and went through the woods area where they can establish a trail system without infringing on any of the farm plots. It was difficult. We kind of pushed that off to a later, probably like a phase 3, because we don't want people walking on cropland.
Okay, thanks.
Mrs. Clemens?
I don't actually have any questions because everybody stole all my questions.
Okay, thank you. I just want to make some comments. I think Mr. Alvarado is going to be a breath of fresh air for this site. Do you know how long he's going to be on this site for?
Oh, Bob will probably retire from the site. I'm you know, we had discussions. Bob will be here for at least phase 2.
Okay.
Well, yeah,
And if not, even, we did have discussions about helping maybe set up the community garden also.
so the phase that we're looking at right now, just to get the contractor out of there and start building the barn, you know, we're going to be 2 weeks from there, and then whatever time it takes to build the barn, and then we'll see what happens after that.
Okay.
Then we're going to, you know, as Ray said, start looking at perhaps phase 3 for next year.
After this contractor gets out, Bob, are they done on this lot, project?
Well, so after March 8th, we have to have a discussion with the town manager, Steve Sopolak, and others to see what kind of in-kind services are to be done on site. There's a lot of items on that contract that we could save quite a bit of monies. So we need to sit down and save the money that we can save by having town forces do some of the work. So we need to find out whether or not we can utilize the town forces to do the work or have the contractor do the work. If the contractor is to do the work, then they have to come back in the springtime, because a lot of the other items that are going to be pending will be topsoiling, seeding, and so forth. And of course, this is the wrong time of the year to be doing much of that work. So we have
That's
to
in
wait
Zubik's-
until May.
Zubik's contract, that is?
That is on the Red's contract, on the contractor's contract.
Okay.
Suvich contract is all environmental.
Okay. I have extreme concern that they're created these trees to be, die
Well,
with their grading, as well as the grading, you know, the natural flow of the water on that site goes from New Britain Avenue down to the little seasonal brook. Now we have a 3-foot berm. Where's that water flowing? How's it going to flow?
well, you have reason for concern. We are going to grade the property properly, and then, as I stated, meet with the town manager and discuss the issue of the trees. A lot of the trees, unfortunately, have been impacted, and you know they're going to die sooner or later. So we need to address that.
But this is an additional expense now to our town.
So now we need to see who's doing what to whom and who's gonna be paying for things.
Okay.
You know, as you know, when you have a consultant and a contractor, they start pointing fingers at each other, and you know, we need to again we need to meet them and find out who's responsible for certain items out there that shouldn't have happened. And if they can be corrected by them, so be it. But if not, it's going to have to be some town involvement. And like I said before, also there's some items, again, that not related to the trees, that the town can save, quite a bit of monies. Right now, we're looking at maybe 139,000 that can be saved by having town forces do some of this work.
Where is that savings coming off of, though? Is it coming off of somebody's contract, or would
It's coming
that
off of
be
the contract.
additional?
It's coming off of the contract. Some of the quantities that they are bidding, we can do. Topsoiling, seeding, slope stabilization. and so forth. I mean, those are big ticket items. It's, it's a lot of money.
Why did that grade go down so much for that driveway going in? Do we know?
My understanding is that they had a lot of topsoil that they found, a lot of organics,
Okay.
and then they were, so they were kind of chasing the organics, and that's the reason why it was so low. But now they're bringing it up. So if you go out there right now, the grades are going to look differently, because right now we almost came to the grade that was at, and then on top of that we're going to be putting 8 inches of processed stone. So it looks bad now. So next week might not look as bad. Again, my concern is the trees that were impacted.
Correct. Do you know if they're going to be cleaning up? They knocked down a lot of trees and they cut trees there. There's piles of them on the east side of the site. You know if they're taking them out of there, or what's the situation?
Again, we're going to have to talk to the manager on this. Some of it is going to be the town's responsibility to do, because it wasn't part of the clearing and grubbing end of the contract.
Okay. I am pleased that you're going to be there.
Yeah, thank you. We're gonna try to do our best to bring it back. It's a little bit difficult that to come into the middle of a project. I normally don't like doing that, but I believe that we can make it work, and we can save the town quite a bit of monies.
But a lot of this monies is created by this moving fill and killing trees, and that's got to come down now.
Exactly. Yeah, but we're gonna stop the bleeding, because it could have been worse. So
Okay.
we kind of need to stop the bleeding and move forward and see how we can get either the contractor or the environmentalist to take from some kind of responsibility out there. But that's kind of beyond my pay grade. So
I understand. But it just like this site was a little mismanaged, I'm hoping now that you'll get it back into control, and
we'll make it work.
I appreciate
Thank you.
that. Thank you. Does anybody else have any comments?
Yeah, I just had a follow-up about that, whatever that amount is, if it's 139 or whatever the amount that we think we can save. Is that saved from the grant? Or is that money that the town wouldn't have to spend? I'm trying to figure out, is that something that we just wouldn't put towards the final amount, towards the grant? Or can we reallocate that elsewhere on the property? How does because if it's a state grant, I mean, we want to be efficient. It's our money, funds the state too. But how is that savings actually going to work as it comes back to the town?
No, it won't come back. It will be off the top. It will be off the cost. They're already over what the bid was, as you can see. We can right now. What we would do is just take money from a different line item in the grant and shift it. Take it out of one section and put it in another. We can still do that. We work closely with the DECD project manager, because they manage the grant money. We have to give them reports. All the requisitions have to go to them, and then they have to approve them.
So potentially we could use that elsewhere on the site if needed.
We potentially, but we're looking at just trying to get the money.
This would have been,
If we
this
do
would have
it,
been
we
in
don't-
excess of the grant.
Yeah,
I
because
see.
they're already exceeded their original contract as far as what they expected to get paid. So anything beyond that would be, that we would do.
I see.
Would be a savings from the grant money.
Not to, now, I feel like I'm going backwards here, but reading the budget, I see original 475 and change orders another 200,000, whatever, total 672. I see a remaining grant of 768. We've been invoiced 368, right? So what is that remaining grant going to cover? I guess I know, and I know the 128 grant is for the barn, which is a separate item, I assume.
Yeah.
And we're at 151 on that, which that is whatever it is. But do I feel like we have money still there? Am I wrong?
Yeah, the $837,000 grant covers cost of Zuvik engineering for the LEP work.
Yeah.
as well as their engineering oversight of the project, which
The
we are
consultant.
going to take over. And also covers all of the site work, everything that is included, that we're talking about, the fill, the topsoil, the grading, the transportation, the rock crushing, and whatever we need to do for site work is included in the grant.
So just so I have an understanding, I'm seeing with the change orders, a 672 number. And I'm seeing a grant of 768, so that,
That's not right. I'm just looking at that now. I have to talk to Steve.
okay, because, okay.
That looks off.
Yeah,
Because
so
I'm
do I.
like, I think we can spend more money. Okay.
Is Mr. Alvarado's coming out of the grant monies, or is he through the town?
It's coming out of town.
Okay. So is the town going to be responsible for more monies than the grant was allowed for this remediation?
No, we don't include Bob's,
No,
pay.
but I mean the rest of it,
No.
because the figures aren't right, as we're saying.
Yeah, I know. The
But-
town was not responsible for a grant, for the $800,000 grant, and there's no way that I'm going to allow us to go over unless we want to do phase two.
Okay,
This has to be closed out. The grant, all this has to be closed out with the state, finalized, and then anything beyond that would be on us or another grant. That
okay.
if I can
So
find
we're
one.
not going to go over that 800,000 at this point.
No.
Perfect. Okay.
And then that 128, by the way, do we already allocate where we're making up that deficit of what it looks like 23,000?
Yes.
We did, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else have any other questions? Okay. Other business?
Yep. Schedule.
Meeting minutes, or meeting dates?
Oh, sorry about that. Yes, approving the 2024 meeting dates.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we carried that. Now on to other business.
Just one thing, one request, Ray, and I don't think this has to, well, this may be an agenda item for next month. We haven't done any reach outs to property owners about preserving land. Can we develop a list of landowners that have 5 acres or more of developable land? And see that list at our next meeting, to potentially send out a letter, just to say that, the town would be interested in acquiring the development rights, because we still have open space money, and I just would hate to see people not aware that we have that and sell to like a developer because they're not aware.
The original committee came up with a plan. They identified priority farm property for priority land to acquire rights from or buy. And that's what we worked from over the years. Maybe we preserved over 400 acres so far. Let me see if I can resurrect that plan again. But there may be other properties. However, we don't want to go out and say we're interested in buying your property. We
Just
need to
promoting that we have funds if
Well-
you're interested.
Yeah, we have money, but once we spend the money, we have to pay it back with interest. So that's, so we have to come up, we probably need to really target good farmland property that might be under threat. I know, I'm thinking of one large piece of property that we could not acquire in the past, that has access to sewer extensions and what have you. Maybe we can revisit that. It's a large, over 100 acres of land. But let me talk to Stuart. Maybe he can give me a printout of properties that are in excess of 5 acres.
Okay.
Maybe, 5 acres, I guess.
I mean, there's a lot done for a couple of years, a lot of preservation, and then all of a sudden it kind of stopped. And I just want to make sure that people that may have bought land and sitting on it may not be aware that we have, $4 million, I guess.
Yeah, what we would also, actually, I do have that list. I did it, I think, I did it once, maybe 2 years ago.
Okay.
But I did not include any of the properties in the meadows.
Right.
Because it's flood property.
Yeah, I would exclude like, commercial, like Brook Street and all that stuff. More in the west end and east. Okay, thank you.
We'll do that.
Anybody else have any other business for tonight?
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.